people in the waiting. Okay, everyone. Great to have everyone. So, welcome to Unlock the Future, EdTech in Higher Education. This is our first advisory board event. I am excited to have all of our higher ed advisors, plus additional leaders in the higher ed space here with us today. And we're privileged to be joined by Tom Ellett, the Chief Experience Officer at Quinnipiac University, and our 6 EdTech company presenters. I'm Wendy Erickson. I'm the founder of Adjacent Markets. Today came about because of the disconnect I've lived between universities and EdTech companies over 20 years in the industry with the University of Chicago, University of Michigan, ESA Business School, Pearson, and Everspring, among others. As higher ed leaders, you all have deep knowledge of the challenges your institutions and students are facing, whether it's retention, enrollment, data integration, online course design, build or buy decisions, student and staff mental health, and more. You are all experts in experiencing many of these challenges firsthand. And by creating more of a dialogue and feedback between you all and the EdTech companies, I believe that greater solutions will evolve while also opening up opportunities for you to expand your impact. The goal is to deliver your expertise as higher ed experts to EdTech professionals to improve and expedite the solutions higher ed needs. We want those who make new technologies to be in direct connection with those who are expected to purchase and implement new technologies. So this event is built around feedback. You will hear 5-minute presentations from each of the 6 companies: BetterMynd, Dosen, Mainstay, Pathify, Vertical Insure, and Via's Campus Management. As advisors and experts, you will have the opportunity to provide your expert feedback to assist these companies in honing their solutions. Okay, so before I turn it over to our moderator, Megan, and Jen, our community manager, who will be in the chat, I want to thank all of you for being here, and I'm grateful to all of you who see the challenges and opportunities we have and have embarked on this journey with me. This is just the beginning. Okay, Megan, are you ready to kick things off?
I am caffeinated and ready to go.
Love it.
All right. So let's see, we'll do a little slide share here. And hopefully everyone can see my screen. Great.
Yep.
Perfect. All righty. So let's go ahead here. So I'm going to go through agenda and some housekeeping for everybody. And like Wendy said, thank you everyone for being here. This is our first event. So it's our first event all working together. So there might be some bumps in the road, but hopefully they will be entertaining as we go through. So today's agenda is we're going to have our first round of 3 pitches, 5 minutes each. Then we'll have a little intermission with our keynote speaker, Tom Ellett, who I'm really excited to hear from today, based on his role as the CXO at Quinnipiac. Then we'll have another round of 3 companies doing their 5-minute pitch, and then we'll do a thank you and next steps. Oops. And some helpful hints for the road here as we're going through. So for our companies, this is definitely going to be a challenge for you all today. It's 5 minutes to talk about the problem, the solution, review a case study or 2, talk about the impact, and then review the questions that you'll have in the survey that are going out to our advisors. For our advisors, today, again, is all about feedback. So I encourage you to really listen and not form opinions as the presenters are going through. Maybe take some notes because you will have until the end of day tomorrow to provide feedback in the survey. We want you to assess the problem, assess the solution and the impact, and then get those surveys in so that we can send them over to our presenting companies. So on deck, or up next, we have BetterMynd. Pardon me. You know how I said those first day jitters? Where are we? All right, so we are working with my new friend Doug. So Doug Frazier will give us our overview of the 5-minute pitch for BetterMynd. Doug, are you ready?
I am ready. You're hearing me okay, Megan?
Perfect.
Okay, great. It's a pleasure to be here. And what a nice, large audience we seem to have. Wendy, thank you for thinking of me. Megan, thank you for your support. I got my clock running right next to me. I can't say that I have practiced my remarks to be exactly 5 minutes. See how it goes. Okay, I'm the Vice President for Campus Relations here at BetterMynd. I've been working with higher education, primarily the student affairs side of campus for almost 25 years. Joined BetterMynd out of a deep connection to the mission to help college students get the support they need relative to their mental health. It is the #1 challenge facing higher education today. With just 5 minutes, I'm not going to belabor that point. The research confronts us every day. This is a basic need. Students cannot succeed, and colleges will not succeed if students don't have a solid mental health footing. What's happening in the landscape right now is that on-campus counseling centers are facing historic demand. With stigmas coming down around mental health and needs increasing rapidly, they are for sure unable to keep up with the demand, and that's consistent across all institution types and sizes. And at the same time, there is this mass exodus of full-time counselors from the college campus and an inability to backfill those positions. Meanwhile, students are demanding options, and like anything, they want to do things online and on demand. So something's got to give. A multitude, I'm sure you're aware, a multitude of teletherapy companies have entered the marketplace to help, but there are problems inherent with many of the models surrounding student utilization and associated costs. We can go ahead, Megan. So BetterMynd, like any other teletherapy provider, is hiring and recruiting fully qualified, fully licensed counselors across all 50 states for teletherapy. Looking at my clock here. How we're doing things differently is through flexibility, transparency, and quite refreshingly, affordability. We respect the counseling directors and their knowledge of their students to sort of determine how they want to deploy teletherapy and purchase the number of sessions that they feel they need. Transparency is lacking from some others because of utilization trends. We sort of think the end is needless, but student utilization of teletherapy is incredibly difficult to predict. And quite frankly, it's often a lot lower than we think, a lot lower than might be in the company's proposal. So with BetterMynd, you can determine how many sessions you need, and then you could start small and add more along the way. Or if anything is unused, they roll over to the following year and they're not wasted. Really creating a healthy relationship between vendor and campus. Go ahead. To give you some examples, we're giving campuses a real choice, to sort of start small, use it as a pilot. Like Rutgers is a 50,000 plus campus with a massive counseling center, but they want to retain a lot of control. They want to continue to see every student, and they will refer students to BetterMynd only as they see fit. So it's a rather small contract. It's a rather small cost because they're not buying that many sessions. A similar institution like the University of Florida has a different mindset, completely open access. They market the heck out of it. And as a result, it's a very, very large contract at a higher price, but it's their choice. And small private colleges and a lot of community colleges can tailor this to what they need and get the support their students need at a really reasonable cost, because it's all usage based. And not only is it usage based, but with that rollover provision, it guarantees no wasted investment. To put a fine point on it, now that I'm at time, to put a fine point on it, if you're rolling over sessions into the following years, your cost will be lower in those following years. It really takes the financial liability off of the institution and onto the company. And teletherapy is not inexpensive. These counselors are in high demand today. So these are major investments that colleges are making. And it's almost like too profitable for the company when utilization does not match what that proposal from them was. I hope that makes sense. So I'll stop now because it's time, but hopefully that's at least kind of piqued some interest. And the model certainly, does not reflect any kind of lesser service. And I want you to think about other services like advising and tutoring and things. Where does this kind of, flexibility and safeguarding of your investment, where does this really apply? We're really, proud of the way that we're kind of really putting mission first and not profit first. And I would love to, get your feedback on how that model strikes you. And some of the other questions I've posted here. I'll stop.
Doug, I'm super impressed. You had the tough task of going first and keeping it to 5 minutes with no one to follow. So high five. And Jen, if you could please drop the link again into the chat, just in case anyone that joined, they will have the link to the survey. All right. Thank you, Doug. And again, this deck and the recording will be sent out afterwards. So next up, we have Dosen, my second new best friend here, Ronan Wall. Ronan, are you ready?
I am, Megan. I'm only your second best friend. That's a shame. Okay,
Someone's got to be
I'll
number
take it.
2, Ronan.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for taking the time, and thanks Megan and Wendy for setting this up. You might just go back up one slide for a moment if you could, Megan. Just there we go. So my name is Ronan Wall. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dosen.io. Dosen is a mentoring, learning and development platform that has been built specifically for the higher education market and for organizations like yourselves. I don't know if you know this, but a docent is somebody who works in a library or a museum, and their job is essentially to meet you at the door and then connect you with whatever it is that you're looking to learn about, be that in the form of an exhibit or in the form of a book. And we think of ourselves as a digital docent, essentially. So the problem that we're solving, Wendy, if you want to move on to the next slide. The problem that we're solving is the big quit, otherwise known as the Great Resignation. Now, this is more formally associated with the workplace, but in reality, it is starting to filter all the way down into higher education as well. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these numbers. I'm sure everyone is more than aware of the challenges that are being faced today. 40% of students are going to drop out of college this year. There's been a 13% drop in enrollment rates versus 2010, and the cost to universities is north of $43 billion a year. A large part of the reason for that is the ever-growing gap between higher education and the workplace. I'm not sure if you've seen any of the data around what students think of their own soft skills and capabilities coming out of college versus what their employers think. But it's really fascinating. You'll see students rate themselves as 7 out of 10 on a number of different factors, and employers rate them at 2 out of 10. And so there's an ever-growing gap between where students think they are and where they need to be, essentially. And so it's no surprise that 87% of graduates want more career advice and workplace advice. Now, This is not down to a lack of effort and energy and expertise from career departments, student services, and elsewhere. The challenge, if you want to flick onto the next slide, Megan, is more around the ability to take your existing programs and then operate them at scale in an engaging and provable fashion. And so that is why we built Dosen. Dosen is focused on improving those student outcomes, so retention, enrollment, employment in the workplace, by unlocking personal development plans for every single student, and then providing them with the guidance and the advice through people and learning assets that are in your organizations and generative AI tools that we've built to essentially allow them to achieve their personal development plans and achieve their outcomes. So if you just want to, there we go, thanks, Megan. To achieve their outcomes. So if you think about our product, it's a combination of communication tools like chat, video calling, calendaring, plus learning tools like libraries full of content, communities full of peers, alumni, faculty, and others who can help the students, and then generative AI tools that we have built, which essentially allow the individuals to do things like build resumes, practice their interview skills, understand the career options that are ahead of them based on the choices that they've made in higher education. So if you want to flick on, Megan, what I'll do next is just take you through, I'll give you one case study, and it's one that's actually outside of the higher education space, but I think it's one of our more interesting ones, because the European Bank, who we work with, essentially run the biggest mentoring program in Europe. They support students, entrepreneurs, and small businesses across 29 different countries. We started to work with them a couple of years ago, and when we did, incredibly low satisfaction rates, very low engagement rates in their program. In truth, they were operating it out of email, Google Sheets, SMS, and they really had no visibility at all. And the biggest challenge for them was that they were at risk of losing their $1.1 billion budget annually because of an absence of all of that information. So we onboarded them in 3 weeks. And if you want to flick on to the next slide again, Megan. Within that 3-week window, we essentially increased our engagement rates from 9% to 90%, satisfaction rates from 3.5 to 4.9 out of 5, reduced the effort for the individuals who are running the program, and ultimately, something we say internally in Dosen is, we're not just focused on the students' success. We also want success for your organization and for you yourself. We try and get everyone we're working with promoted. Truthfully, that's kind of where we want to end. And what we did most impactfully of all is we helped the European Bank realize the value of the program that they were running. So they now know that the entrepreneurs and SMEs that they were supporting increased the values of their businesses by $500 million. That then in turn led to, after only 8 weeks, them doubling their program budget, winning program of the year, and ultimately increasing the expansion and scale of their program. So not exactly in the higher ed world, but I thought it's a really interesting representation of how our tool works. The way that we're different essentially is in the form of the engagement rates that we can drive because of the gamification, the tools we use, our ability to leverage AI within our platform and support you through it, and then finally through the customization layer, which allows you to essentially build your program into our system. I'm not going to go over the questions. You'll see these in the survey later, but for me, it's more about understanding where you are in these areas. And then last slide, please connect with me on LinkedIn. We know each other now, we're friends. And if you have any specific questions, just reach out to me at ronan@dosen.io. I'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ronan. All right. I hope the speakers are doing well because I'm a little anxious and I'm not really speaking. So let's see. We have up next Kirk from Mainstay. You ready to roll?
I'm always anxious, Megan, so that's okay. So hey everyone, I'm Kirk. So glad to be here with you all today. I'm the co-founder of Mainstay, and I've been working in higher ed since the mid-90s. So I was just thinking, literally, how did I get this old? But here we are. So I was actually a first-gen college student. I was a Pell Grant recipient, started my career in student affairs, and I worked at admissions at 3 different institutions. I was also a high school college counselor and worked as director of member relations for the Common App before co-founding Mainstay, which at the time was known as AdmitHub. And Mainstay is a public benefit company with a mission to increase access and achievement for students to and through college. We're actually a team of former higher ed professionals. Many of us are first-gen college students ourselves. And you can switch to that next slide. So 9 years ago, my co-founder and I were talking to a lot of leaders in higher ed. We actually found there was a common challenge in terms of engaging students and supporting them throughout their college journeys. And so while the staff were working hard to provide resources to help guide students along their path, they found students either weren't aware of what was available to them, or they weren't accessing those resources that were communicated to them through traditional means like email and websites. And that's where we developed Mainstay. So we're a conversational student engagement platform, and you can hit that next slide. So Mainstay is a conversational student engagement platform to help colleges. Oh, you can back up one there or two. Yeah, perfect. So a student engagement platform, we help college staff reach and support students where they are, which is typically over text message, and we actually use AI to power the conversation. There are really 3 prongs to the Mainstay platform. The first is an AI coach giving students 24/7 support, and it's proven to drive outcomes in enrollment and retention. Second is an insights platform delivering actionable data in nearly real time to help colleges move the needle in those areas without relying on annual surveys. And the third is a virtual assistant to help college staff work more efficiently and connect them with students who need additional help. So we help attract, retain, and engage students by driving conversation, delivering deep insights, and building a community of belonging. The way we do it is we help you engage your students at scale in a personalized way, predominantly via text message. And we're a conversation platform with a proven solution, meaning anyone can send text messages, but impact is really driven by conversation. We partner with the Yale Institute of Emotional Intelligence, the National Institute of Student Success, and others to provide empathetic and equitable messaging, building trust and confidence to drive action among enrollment and retention milestones. So let me take you to a case study. We partner with over 200 colleges and universities, as well as states like Washington, California, and Arizona, a variety of college access orgs, and West Texas A&M was one of our first partners. And when we first spoke to them, they were stuck with regards to retention. It had stayed the same for decades, and they were finding it difficult to engage their students in ways to provide support at scale. So we developed Thunder, their text message chatbot. And in our first 2 seasons with them, WT saw some pretty incredible results, including a 4.5% increase in retention, almost a $500,000 increase in tuition revenue as a result of that increased retention, and other qualitative impacts like record-setting attendance at on-campus events. So we have this foundational philosophy around using research-backed behavioral and mindset science to layer in empathy into student conversations. And you can hit that next slide, which is really quite unique. We've actually participated in over 10 independently run research studies to validate the effectiveness of our work, and we've seen significant impacts on areas like reducing summer melt, increasing FAFSA completions, and boosting retention, especially amongst first-generation and historically resilient student populations. So I mentioned earlier, the way we do that is by driving action around key milestones, and our research partnerships have really helped us identify what needles we need to move. And this is one really great example at Georgia State University. So we collaborated with GSU to identify those top micro barriers to persistence, areas like booking an advisor appointment or attending a career fair. Then we turned each of those processes into an automated guided text message conversation. And we saw completion rates increase across the board, which led to about a 5% retention boost that season. So we're the only EdTech company with multiple independent research studies proving we consistently increase enrollment by 4%, retention by 4%. This is a really great example here at GSU. So now in the spirit of collaboration, we'd love to take you to those questions. We'd love to hear your perspective on some of these ways that you're thinking about persistence milestones and driving students to take action with the supports you have on campus. So thank you so much for the time.
Fantastic. All right. So that was 1, 2, 3 of our first round of presentations. And now I'm going to stop share. And we're going to welcome Tom Ellett to the forefront, our CXO from Quinnipiac, who is going to share a bit more about his perspective on putting not only students, but parents as the focus for the institution, and also how technology plays a part in the growth of higher ed. So Tom, it is all you.
Thank you so much, Megan. And thank you for our presenters learning a great deal from you in terms of what you do and how you make the journey for students even better. So some quick context. I work at Quinnipiac University. It is in Hamden, Connecticut, about 80 miles north of New York City and about 2.5 hours south of Boston. So right in that sweet spot. It's a comprehensive university, which means we're one of 2.3 institutions in the country that have comprehensive medical school, law school, computer science, engineering, business, health sciences, communications, nursing. Very professional school based. But unlike a lot of the most comprehensive institutions, we're much smaller. We have about 9,200 students, 6,200 undergrads, and the rest graduate students. We are nestled right next door to the Sleeping Giant State Park, which is just a gorgeous Zen-like New England environment to learn. And so that is kind of context. And today, 64 degrees here in Hamden, Connecticut, hopefully so nice where you are as well. The president of the university came in 2018. She had previously been the dean of the Anderson School of Management at UCLA, and before that, the dean of the Smeal College of Business at Penn State. And she really looked at in the organization and matrix thinking as we think about how we work across and together. She created the CXO position, and I came aboard in fall of 2020. Yes, that is the midst of our COVID period of time. The areas of responsibility that report under me are the pre-college programs support, enrollment, admissions tech, financial aid, enrollment operations, One Stop, which is a conglomeration of Bursar, parking, food services, and administrative services, the registrar, student community development, student affairs, veterans affairs, public safety, and dining. And for when you think about CXO positions, really the definition is evolve the organization's approach to business transformation by bringing in experience, strategy, design, and user experience capabilities. And really one of the things that I really focus on is the journey map, the student progression from the first time they introduced to the institution and come on our campus or virtually, all the way through being handed off to alum. And really part of that is really looking at to increase the sense of belonging and connectedness to the institution. Lessons learned early on as it related to my time in the pandemic was no one's happy. This isn't what we paid for. What is communicated and how often. We live with the decisions we made, good and bad, or our predecessors made right as the pandemic happened. And certainly the lessons now are a little bit different in some ways. Parent involvement exceedingly high. Students are certainly less prepared as it relates to the academic journey. And I would also say the co-curricular experiences as well, because they lacked that developmental growth through the high school process of becoming a member of an organization and moving up to leadership roles. Personalization is exceedingly powerful and expected. And how do we gain feedback? And so pretty early on in my time at Quinnipiac, I received a phone call from Jeff Salengo. If you know Jeff, he is an author in the higher ed world. He has formerly written for the Chronicle of Higher Education, The Atlantic, he writes for sometimes, and certainly the Wall Street Journal. And he called me within my first 6 weeks to ask me about being the first CXO and what I learned from other industries in terms of XO world, higher ed much later in the game for experienced officers. And at that moment in time, I certainly hit my head against the wall saying, my goodness, why didn't I reach out to other CXOs in the space to learn about other industries and what they have done? And so pretty soon after that, I set up an organization of CXOs from other industries, from museums, from hospitality, from entertainment, from marketing, communications. And we met pretty regularly. And I want to share some of the lessons that we collectively learn from each other, how important it is to segment your population. And in the higher ed world, I looked at it as our students, our faculty, our staff, parents, and our community members. And how did we communicate with each of those? How did we participate with each of those? And how did we get voice from each of those areas? The tools, what are the tools that we can't live without as it relates to higher ed compared to hospitality, so forth? We learned that the frontline staff are truly the most important. Certainly the importance of not solving the wrong problem and trying to fix things that don't need to be fixed. And then connect people to the mission. For instance, we talked about the story of the NASA janitor to JFK about their job. Helping to put a man on the moon. Our role is actually to help a student to go out into the world and make that kind of impact that they want to make, depending on where it is they want to be in terms of their journey. And so what has changed for us in higher education, in terms of the EXO thinking of it? Certainly the virtual world and how can we work with it? Can we continue to be hybrid? Many of the staff that I have need to be on the ground and student facing. And so that may be a little more challenging. How do we think about relearning? I teach a first year seminar course and use Adam Grant's book, Think Again. And I would encourage all of you to look at how we have developed our own thinking based on our own experiences, and how do we broaden that level of thinking to think maybe differently at this moment in time. I mentioned personalization, how important it is. We just have a series of advisory boards, and one of the advisory boards that I lean on heavily is high school guidance counselors. We meet quarterly with that group to talk about what is happening in high schools and what can we learn as colleges for that student coming in. A couple of things I'll share with you. I learned at just last week's advisory board meeting. One was that the largest growing groups on high schools campuses is mental health groups. Students wanting to be engaged and talking about the challenges that they've faced and overcome at this moment in time. Another throwaway one is Dungeons and Dragons is alive and well in high schools. And so do you have those clubs on your college campuses? And certainly everyone seems to want to apply to an SEC school. Football in the South is big, and everyone wants to go to a community focused kind of institution. What else has changed in the higher ed realm is partnerships and how important they are. We at Quinnipiac has made a very deep and strong relationship with a healthcare organization that now provides all of these services to our students, but also preferential job hiring for all of our students. Huge for us. Co-hiring of faculty and staff at the hospital and on our campus. So a lot of partnership things that we're thinking about in how do we frame the experience for us and for our students. How do we get professional development into the lifeblood of our staff again after having a little bit of a disengagement because of COVID? And I don't know about you, it's hard for online learning. We know that. And so in person and getting our staff to want to go back into that. A paradigm shift from journey focus to outcome focus. What is it that we're trying to accomplish, and how do we engage students? And again, I think one of our presenters talked about it very eloquently, the mental health challenges that our students are bringing with them. And I would also say the mental health challenges our parents are bringing with them. The student and the parent are connected at the hip, and that is not going to change. And so how are we preparing for that? And so when I think about what matters most in my role and what I do is wellness is the core that I would say really matters most. If your student is not well, nothing else really matters. Do they have a sense of connectedness to the institution, to the peers, and to the faculty who teach them? Really focusing on outstanding immersive learning experiences inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And how can it be measured? It can be measured by retention, satisfaction, belonging, and career outcomes. Really think about trying to make as many of the administrative processes be seamless and less burdensome for our students and our parents. Co-creation is significantly important for me and for the institution. And I'll give you a couple of examples of co-creation. We have an agency on campus that serves the nonprofit organizations in the area and student issues and helps provide solutions to what it is that we're facing. We had a parking problem on campus. The MBA consulting class actually did all of the work and provided a series of solutions for us. We presented to the Student Government Association and they embraced it. I get no complaints about parking, and I don't know many people who don't get complaints about parking. Students, we've learned from our outside food service vendor, we are the first institution, and maybe there are others, that have students making all of the menu decisions in our dining halls. We no longer make the decisions, students make those decisions. We have a student philanthropy club here on campus. In their first year and a half, they've raised $210,000 for scholarships for students by students. They run our Shake Smart operation, which is a protein shake bar. And finally, we have a pub on campus. We have moved that over to students, similar like a co-op, to actually run the operation. It has been very, very successful for us. I mentioned advisory boards. I talked about the high school guidance counselors. Parents Advisory Board has been the most transformative for me. It was very painful the first year, a little less painful the second year, and finally the third year. Parents are really embracing their role of advising and not wanting to do my role or everyone else's role at the institution. So when I think about the questions that I ruminate about in my role and that of my team, why do students come to Quinnipiac University? What are the touch points that are most important and impactful for our students? How do we assess the communication that we provide to the various customers or clients that we have? And how are we measuring whether they are successful or not? And what data is most important for improving our operation and reducing organizational noise? If you haven't read Daniel Kahneman's book, Noise, I'd strongly encourage it. It really talks about variability in service and how do we try to reduce variability? How do we provide consistent and ongoing services for our students, our faculty, and staff? So those are a little bit of my thoughts, the questions I consider that every day of my role here, and really what we're trying to do in this co-creation space at Quinnipiac University. Really appreciate the time to speak with you all in this short amount of time I had. Certainly feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, cxo@qu.edu, and certainly on LinkedIn you can find me as well. Thank you, Wendy, for this opportunity.
Thanks, Tom. That was fantastic. Really appreciate it. I just find it so fascinating, so much of what you've done and so inspiring. So it was great to hear those examples.
All right, we're ready for rapid fire again? Who is on deck? All right, we have Pathify. Let me see if I can find buttons.
I'll say as you're getting that set up, proud D&D player here, so that totally checks out.
All right. So Dustin, you are up.
All right, I'll get my timer going as well. I'll just keep myself honest. Hello, everyone. My name is Dustin Ramsdell. I'm a community engagement lead at Pathify. I've been on the team for a little over a year, and Pathify has been working with higher institutions for the past several years, supporting them with creating more simplified and user-friendly user experiences, primarily for students, and kind of helping navigate through the waves of digital transformation that are hitting institutions right now. Go ahead. So the problem that we are working with institutions to find, provide solutions for, at this point, websites for institutions are overly inundated with information that could be relevant to prospective students, current students, parents, alumni, faculty, staff, very difficult to find what you're looking for, or even kind of discover something that might be relevant or useful for you. And we've seen that a lot of students can't find what could be most helpful. And there's sort of the tragedy of, a student saying, like, only if I knew, the resources that are available to me, maybe I wouldn't have had to take a leave of absence or struggled so much. And the byproduct of kind of the past couple of years with the pandemic also is sort of, in addition to the website issue, IT leaders are just burnt out with all of the different digital tools that their institution brought on and trying to leverage. And it's just an inefficient sort of state of affairs that definitely needs rectifying. Go ahead. So the solution that we're trying to do, again, simplifying the digital experience, a lot of different kind of features and things that you can see kind of all laid out there. We are a EdTech partner for institutions, but also to other EdTech tools out there. We integrate with a lot of things to create an ecosystem and a dashboard for students that allows for them to see kind of high-level summaries of the information that is explicitly personalized and relevant to them, and also take some simplified actions about, paying a balance or engaging with campus events that are going on. But really, the workload and kind of the cost of management for IT leaders of all the digital tools and all the kind of content management and everything, it's really reducing that, just creating a lot more efficiencies for students and staff members. So the students are getting their problem solved, and everybody is together under one unified digital experience for their campus that is fully the same on website as it is for the campus app, which can push notifications out and send messaging out through that medium, and not having to have institutions rely solely on email. We'll see, a case study, Utah State, one of our longest and most cherished partners. So they had a lot of student feedback that kind of enough was enough. They needed a more user-friendly, engaging digital platform. So we worked with them to create MyUSU 2.0, and they've just had an amazing level of utilization of their platform. And it's been really great to see that students were really a part of that process. And there's just so much praise for the design and the interface. Is way more modern and aligned with what students are seeing elsewhere in their life. And they just continue to expand the use of the platform and have it be this kind of integral nexus for their entire kind of digital ecosystem at their institution. And yeah, there's a lot of great impacts, similar kind of in different ways that other folks are talking about. Students are just getting things done, registration holds, payments, understanding the deadlines they have. They understand what's going on campus. We've seen some really great use cases around connecting students with their advisors much more easily through groups and embedding click of a button to bring up scheduling platforms. So really streamlining, consolidating, personalizing. These are all kind of the action words, the descriptors that we'd want folks to be thinking about when they're sort of interacting with or considering our platform. And another kind of big thing that I think a lot of institutions are considering as a variety of digital tools that maybe they brought on in like the early 2000s or even before are just kind of reaching the end of their natural life, or things are getting sunsetted. Like we're in a phase of folks getting away from digital tools that they had on-prem, moving to the cloud, and just a lot of transitions. You can provide a great continuity so that the front-facing experience that students have doesn't change, but then the back end can be kind of reconfigured and set up in whatever way works best for your institution. Go ahead. And so these questions, we look forward to hearing from you about these, and we're just so excited to be a part of this collaborative network of folks. And yeah, we're just really hoping to work with any higher institution as they're rethinking the way that they're implementing a digital first mindset and building their digital ecosystem, make it work better for students. And please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on there all the time.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dustin. Everyone's doing really well. Like, I'm very impressed with everyone's ability to move as fast as you are all moving. So next up, we have the Vertical Insure, and John will be speaking. John, are you ready?
Yeah, I am. And of course, you would say that right before I start. So really feeling the pressure on this one. I'll start my clock.
You're doing great. We're going to do great.
Thank you. Yeah, hi everybody. Obviously awesome to be a part of this, and seeing everyone's smiling faces here. That's mine, isn't it? I apologize. That was a 5-second timer. Anyways, very excited to be here. Looking forward to the feedback as well. Again, John McRae, Vertical Insure. I essentially am heading up the partnership division for our tuition product, which we launched, a couple of months ago. Go ahead and click forward if you would. I think, we're kind of hearing a theme in terms of the problem. There's certainly some things that we can fix through, the experience of the student as well as the family members. I won't go through all of these in basically fine tooth comb it, but same thing that everyone else has said, right? We're seeing obviously enrollments go down. We're seeing a 75% increase in public institutions with medical withdrawals for students. Obviously, I think the next one makes a ton of sense for the institutions themselves. They have a business to run, and obviously they need the finances in order to provide the services that they do to their enrolled population. And so in the case that a student is medically withdrawn from, from campus, more or less, they're running into the situation where that student, understandably so, likely wants a refund, where the campus and the institution needs that money to continue to put on and to produce for its other enrollments. And so the final one really stands out to me in terms of how and what our solution is. We live in a society where we insure against risk for most things of value in our lives. So obviously your house, your health, your car, other things such as that. And yet the majority of enrolled students have no idea that there's an opportunity for them to insure against risk as well, with tuitions that are raising up to, basically the cost of a car annually. There's a significant amount of financial risk that goes along with that. And as it stands, most of them are unaware that they can actually insure that risk. And so if you move to the next slide, what we are doing is we obviously have a policy that we are looking at embedding in that student enrollment process. So where a lot of the focus so far has been on the experience of that student once they're enrolled and once they're on campus, and kind of moving forward, we're focusing more on that beginning section. So when they're going through the tuition process, the enrollment process, the payment process, payment plans, and all of those other forms and whatnot, we're looking at embedding an option that's a simple checkbox, letting them know, hey, there is financial risk here. You're spending a lot of money. There are some things that are outside of your control that could happen, that could lead to you essentially not being able to complete that semester, and ultimately still being on the hook for that loan or that payment that comes along with that enrollment. And so if we move on to the next piece, the case studies here are a little bit, we are working with a couple of partners and EdTech partners. One of our next speakers, actually, VS, very proud. We just launched a partnership with them as well as Kaleidoscope. I think our focus moving forward at this point, we're also looking at how do we embed and how do we get in front of students when they're actually making that financial decision. Obviously, there's a ton of opportunities throughout their experience on campus as well, through student management as well as student engagement. That is currently our focus, though, is getting in front of them, whether that be an institution built platform or another EdTech platform that they're using. That's really the goal for us, is how do we make this as easy as possible? We don't want to make it another form that they have to go and fill out in an already arduous process. And how can we put that in front of them when it makes sense? We can go ahead and move to the next one. So the impact, I think there's really three different audiences here. The impact on the student is obviously we're taking away risk that they may or may not know exists, but it certainly does. We're giving them that peace of mind, and hopefully by doing that, we're accelerating, or we're helping accelerate enrollments for the institution. The other side is we're actually going to help stabilize some of that financial risk that the institutions are taking, more along the lines of if a student has to withdraw before the withdrawal deadline, we could potentially insert this policy in there so that the policy covers it, institution still keeps their money and is able to use that towards the rest of the student body. Decrease in administrative times. One of the questions that we're going to be asking is, how many times is this happening where you are getting a request for a refund of tuition and it's past that withdrawal deadline, or there's a reason that you're not able to fulfill that request. And then obviously the last one that's not listed on here is either the EdTech partner that we would be looking to partner with, or the institution themselves if they built their own system. We've set this up so that we have the ability to create a new revenue channel for the partner of ours as well. So not only are we helping increase enrollments, helping take some of that financial risk away, but we're also sharing some of that premium through the use of basically a marketing payment. Go ahead and move forward again. Shoot. I thought I had another slide in here. We can look at the slides here for a second, but yeah, I guess we can end it there. Some of the things that we are looking at though, is this something that is coming up? Is it something that the institutions have thought of? And if so, more or less, where do you feel that we can best embed this to make it as simple as possible for the students? Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thank you, John. And apologies for sneak attack, missing a slide. That was probably my fault.
Oh, that's okay.
All right. And Kate, last but definitely not least, are you ready?
I'm going to bring it home for you guys.
I love it. All right. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Andrews. I'm the VP of Marketing and Business Development for BS Campus Management System. Thank you to Megan and Wendy for today, and thank you to all of you guys for your time. We're really eager to learn and hear from you and ultimately better serve you and your institutions. BS Campus Management is an all-in-one student information system. Oh, and if you mind going back one slide. Yeah, there you go. We were created a little bit by happenstance. A group of school administrators in Kentucky were looking for an SIS system and were really underwhelmed with the solutions on the market, and pretty much figured out that they could build exactly what they want it was much more cost effective for their institution. So they never anticipated to take this to market. It was always going to be proprietary, but after businesses, community partners, a number of other schools in their space were asking them, what are you guys doing? Your student success, your retention, your graduation rates, it's clearly there's something working. And then lastly, they continue to have zero finding audits, and the accrediting bodies kept saying, this is the technology people need. So that is how a bunch of school administrators jumped into tech, and it's a little bit of our origin story. We'll jump into a trend here that we are seeing. If you'll go to the next slide. So we are hearing repeatedly that schools are inundated with third-party solutions. You're managing your LMS, your SIS, your CRM, all your different, the siloed departments have different solutions that they're trying to integrate, and it's a lot to manage. It's expensive. The integrations aren't always both ways, and they're clunky. You compromise security, and it's impeding your administrator's efficiency. But what used to be a problem that was reserved for IT, or maybe just the solutions your admissions were using, is now impacting all departments. And we're hearing that your faculty, adjunct faculty, students, which Pathify is clearly solving for that problem as well, and the entire administration is feeling overwhelmed. So we have created a solution, and if you'll go to the next slide, that is the hub. One system, one place to input data, documents, and information, and one source of truth to integrate all of your systems and manage the entire life cycle of your students. We'll go to the next slide. Here's one of our partners, Blue Cliff College. They were able to save $830,000 annually by consolidating their tech stack with BS. Part of our implementation strategy is we do a really granular gap analysis where we sit down with each department and take a look at, what are you guys doing? What's working for you guys? What solutions do you like? Where could we potentially find efficiencies and consolidation? And when we take a look at Blue Cliff, we noticed there was definitely some inefficiencies. Their data was fragmented across their different solutions, and it was inaccurate. And they faced security risks, and ultimately across all of the different departments, the users were overwhelmed, they were confused, and they were having to manage a lot of different systems. So we streamlined their operations, we increased their capabilities, and we eliminated the following solutions. And when I say eliminated, we eliminated separate subscription agreements with different solutions, and we gave them all of these capabilities in one source. We'll go to the next solution. Impact here is obviously cost reduction. but we were also able to enhance their security substantially. We increased the efficiencies across their departments, and we improved accuracy of their data and reporting capabilities. The biggest for them and for their end users was we were able to automate a lot of the manual processes that they were carrying the burden for. And ultimately, and one thing that we really try to focus on at VIAS is technology is supposed to make your life easier. It's not supposed to complicate things. By reducing and consolidating, creating one source of truth to access, your schools regain valuable time, money, and resources. And you guys get to focus on ultimately what you're there to serve, and that is your students. And I think Tom spoke to that really well with kind of trying to collect all the noise and silence the noise and create focus within your institutions. So these questions that we have on our next page, we're super eager to hear and learn from you. And thank you again for your guys' time and to everybody for participating today.
All right, Kate, thank you so much. Okay, so, pardon, I went a little fast there. That concludes our second speed round of pitches from our partnering EdTech companies. So thank you all. And I don't know about the audience, but I have definitely learned a few things, not only about our companies, but also that the survey will definitely take you more than the time that you had for each presenter. So please take your time with putting that information in there, because your feedback is super valuable as we work to help shape and to create stronger partnerships between EdTech and higher ed. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Wendy.
Knock it off, leave her alone.
You knew that had to happen one time during this presentation. I'm surprised. Luckily, it happened in the last 1 minute, so. Deborah, I think you're off mute. If you could just go on mute, because I am not the presenter right now. Thank you. Fantastic. That was great, everyone. So we made it on time. We have not hit the top of the hour. So we did build in a few minutes. If you guys want to take this time to fill out surveys, we will be accepting them until tomorrow afternoon, and really, really looking forward to your feedback. I know this was kind of a different format, so we're also looking for your feedback on this format. We will be experimenting with different ways to bring you folks all together in the future. Speaking of, we have our next event up on December 14th at 2 p.m. We have some great presenters. I think Rich Kochman is actually on this call. He will be presenting with some really great folks, and it's all about preparing for the gig economy and higher education, both the impact on your careers and the opportunities, as well as your institutions. So we are really excited. The registration link is up, so feel free to go to the website. If anyone has any questions, reach out. You will be getting an email from us with the recording, the deck, and so you know where to find us. And we're excited just to keep the dialogue going. And did I miss anything?
No, that was all on my end.
Okay, great. Okay, everyone, have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you all soon.
Thank you, Wendy, and everyone.
Thanks, everyone. It was great to hear from all of you. Have a great day.